Hello everyone. Today I wanted to talk about how I make Steam controller profiles. With the impending release of Dark Souls Remastered, I figured this would be the perfect game to go over my thought process behind the creation. I'm not actually going to be playing this game in this video beyond testing out the configuration. Full playthrough will come with the remaster. And I haven't abandoned Hollow Knight either if you're worried about that. I have plenty of stuff recorded for it, just need to go through and figure out what to upload. Anyway, let's get in the game and check it out. So, first thing first, it's basically just a basic gamepad. You can see this doesn't do anything unless I click. Joystick move, all that fun stuff. It's not a pads only configuration like I use in Hollow Knight. At least not yet. So let's load it up. And again, it's just a basic gamepad with camera controls. First thing I like to do, of course, return requires clicked off. It makes the D-pad feel much more responsive. You don't have to click in, just tap to actually click. Next thing, it's in joystick camera right now. That mode is actually kind of the most useless camera mode out there. The most beneficial thing with it, it's not listing it at the moment, I believe it still has the adaptive centering, where if you even touch off center, that's the dead zone, and it's only going to start moving. You actually start moving. But it doesn't feel all that great. What a lot of people will do is they'll put it to mouse mode, and then the game controls the camera with the mouse. As you can see now, the mouse is moving. For first-person shooters and the like, I do like mouse mode, but for Dark Souls I actually don't. Actually, to me, kind of feels kind of bad. Especially because, let's see, if I browse items, it's still moving the camera, that's cool. But one thing about it being in mouse mode, because I don't have any mouse clicks bound, it's kind of annoying to work with the menu. Because it doesn't actually, because A doesn't actually click where the cursor is, it clicks what's highlighted, and I'd rather just highlight stuff with the D-pad. Why is it not moving through? Oh, there we go. Okay. So, I actually don't like mouse mode for the Dark Souls games, because menu navigation is kind of a pain, because I don't use mouse clicks. But of course the joystick camera is horrible. So I actually like using mouse-joystick. A lot of people don't, but it's actually better than you would think. What that does is it gives you kind of one-to-one control, like you would see on a mouse, but it maps that to a joystick, a virtual joystick that the game then uses. So, see if I can show you that. Yeah. Of course, this is in D-pad mode, but a lot of people don't like it because it's mapping that mouse to the joystick. It doesn't really feel like either a joystick or a mouse. You can mess with settings to get that better though, and that's what I like to do. So immediately, in order to get it feeling more like a mouse, the best thing you can do is actually max these out at first. And that's going to seem weird, but there's a reason for it. Basically the minimum X and Y outputs, these are going to be used to compensate for the game's built-in dead zone. Remember, it's seeing a joystick, so it's going to have a dead zone applied to that in-game. So these sliders account for that. But if you were to just mess with these, then you would have to swipe across the pad a little bit, observe, change, then swipe across the pad a little bit, observe, change, and it'd be all by feel, and that's kind of bad. So we actually want to max this one out as well. In simple terms, it's basically you don't want too much, because then a small little movement might get exaggerated to be way more than it needs to be. But if you have too little, then a small movement may not even register. So we're going to be increasing this for now, but then decreasing it later. But for now, it actually does help us find the dead zone on these. So let's go ahead and max all these out, and I'll show you why. What winds up happening is as soon as you place the thumb on the pad, even if it's just resting, the camera just goes crazy. It's just jittering all over the place. So what we're going to do then is that will allow us to then go down to additional settings, and then we lower these. And it'll be a slow process, but it'll be more objective because you're not relying on feel. And it should be a little bit less jittery. A little bit, it's still quite jittery, but not as much. A little bit less. That seems to be a little bit less. Still jittering, but it has smoothed out quite a lot. This may take a little bit of time, but once you dial in the settings, it'll feel really good. So in this case, we probably didn't even have to max it out to begin with, which is good practice too. With a lot of games for this setting. Now it's back at default. Still going crazy, but not by much. And of course the game is not responding to that anymore, so we actually want to increase it. You know what, I'll leave it at default, that's fine. I know default I did see a tiny little movement. Hold on a second. Yeah, it is moving it a little bit, so we actually want to move it up just one more and see where that leaves it at. Alright, so that's basically where the game's dead zone is at, and now we're going to start lowering this one again to get rid of the small movement. We might be able to drop these back down. Let's see. Alright, we're going to actually increase this back up a little bit. So right now I'm rolling my thumb across the pad. I'm not even swiping, just rolling my thumb. That's actually feeling pretty good already. It's not quite a mouse, but it's feeling nice. The last thing to do is to increase this up by like 1 notch maybe. That way the joystick is very level, very stable rather. That gives us very nice smooth control of the camera. Of course trackball mode is on at the moment. What's its friction setting at? friction is medium, which is what I typically like. That's good. Alright, I'm actually going to set these back to default. That actually seems pretty good. Yeah. It turns out didn't really need to mess too much there. But that happens sometimes. But where the default settings are actually pretty good. Enhancing the small movement did help feel it better. It's worth it to note at this point that in terms of options, camera speed is maxed out in game. That is kind of necessary for mouse joystick. So that should take care of the right stick for the most part. Now we're gonna make this a pads only configuration. Essentially, we're gonna move it to that. So basically, gonna unbind all of this, but in a moment. So what I like to do for the right pad is we're gonna use a mode shift, and that's gonna mode shift to a directional pad, and you'll understand why in a little bit. Even though it's not gonna be a button pad. Or even though it's using ABXY, it's not going to be button pad mode. Required clicked on, that's fine. Mode shift button, we're going to come down and set it to right pad click. And what that's going to do is when you click in the right touchpad, it will mode shift to a directional pad, and then wherever you click down, it's going to see that. So from here we can actually put in A, B, X, Y, and it is worth it to note that when we're in the mouse-like joystick and we're using the right pad click as the mode shift, we actually can't use the click action, so we have to unbind that. We'll get that functionality back in a minute, don't worry, but now you can see click triggers that. I go up when I click in. So if I have an item there, it would use it. And of course, triangle to 2 hands. So now all that works. What that essentially does is it puts the buttons underneath the pad or underneath the camera controls. That's kind of how that works out. But in order to get our right stick click back, what we're going to do is go back into the mode shift, and we're going to mess with this real quick. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to additional settings. We're going to bring the outer ring binding radius down to 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 11. Kind of the same as the dead zone. And then we're going to invert at that. So what that means is instead of going to the outside of the pad, oops, the outer ring, I guess you could say, it'll trigger on kind of like the center of the pad, because it's inverted now. So what we're going to do is the outer ring binding, we're going to make that stick click. So basically what this becomes is when you click around the edges, you get your ABXY. When you click in the center, you get your right stick. So, boom. That's how that works. And that takes care of ABXY diamond and the right pad for the most part. So now this can be unbound completely. Go to none. Now those do nothing in game. Because I do like playing pads only, so that's my preference. I know some people don't. Now we got to take care of the left side though. And this is where things get a little bit tricky on the left side. So unbind this for now. Go to the D-pad mode. Because if we try and put this on joystick move and then mode shift to a D-pad, I'm going to go ahead and put, let's go ahead and do this. If I try and do the same trick, the same mode shift trick there, you're going to notice something interesting. Why is it not doing that? joystick. Oh, mode shifting. Directional pad. Guess I have to set the mode shift button. Silly me. So, left pad, click. Now every time I want to change my weapon, if I don't lift my thumb immediately off the pad, I'm going to start moving in that direction. And you don't really want that in a game where positioning matters. So accidental inputs are bad, so we can't use the same trick. But there is a way to do it. So let me go ahead and clear this out. You don't have to clear it out, but I want to anyway. That way if I ever go back to the setting, it doesn't like remember anything. So the way we actually get the joystick and the D-pad on the left pad together and have them be isolated from each other so that you can activate them separately. We're actually going to set this into D-pad mode at first. And instead of putting the D-pad under the joystick, we're actually going to put the joystick under the D-pad, but this is the tricky part. We're going to set it up so that it lifts up above when we need it. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an action layer. We're going to call it joystick move. And in joystick move, we are going to set the D-pad back to joystick move. Click action being our left stick. Click. Haptics, I actually like haptics being low. We don't need mode shifting on it. And I'm going to actually increase the outer ring binding all the way and invert it. And that's setting it up for a little bit later. So that we can do something. Basically what it's going to do is the entire touchpad is now one touch binding. But in order to access this layer on the D-pad, what we're going to do is we are going to invert our outer ring, same as we did before. In our outer ring binding, we're actually going to go over to apply action layer to the joystick move. So kind of like before, how setting the outer ring binding to invert gives that center button so we get the right stick click on the right pad. On this one, we get that center binding, and when we touch the center, it's going to apply that action layer. Because require click is off, it'll just go ahead and apply that action layer. So, and go back up, it'll turn to joystick move. It's touch, because of course we were just touching it. But now, in order to get the D-pad back, again, this time we're inverting the entire outer ring to be one entire touch menu. And the binding we're going to have on this, it's actually going to be a little bit tricky. Add activator, yeah, copy it. We're actually going to use a release press activator type here, and then the binding, we're going to come over, going to remove action layer. And what that's going to accomplish is when we touch on the center, it's going to apply that layer. At least it should. There we go. And now we have our joystick move. And as soon, and you can see even though we're going to the outer edges, we're not triggering the D-pad or anything. So, but as soon as we lift up, now we're going to have to adjust some settings, I see, but yeah, we need to bring in the outer ring a bit in the base layer. Okay, that's being frustrating. It shouldn't be both. Second. That was unaccounted for. I've actually built this profile before in Dark Souls 2 and it worked fine, so hold on. Look action, click off, overlap region, default, what if to four-way no. You said it's the same dead zone setting. Well, it is inverted, right? That's why. Outer ring binding needs to be inverted. figured something's up. Why is it still doing that? Because it shouldn't be in that layer anymore. Bits. Please press remove action. Should be joystick move. That's odd that it's doing both at the same time. It shouldn't be when touching the extreme edges, huh? That's kind of irritating, because I can load up Dark Souls 2 and show you it working perfectly. I wonder if it's because it's a quirk of how this is working out. Well, for now I'll go with the assumption that it works the way I intend it to. Because it does. I've seen it work in Dark Souls 2. Maybe it's just a limitation of Dark Souls 1. I don't know, but I'll load up Dark Souls 2 later and show it actually working properly. So mouse-like joystick, D-pad plus joystick move, start and select, that should be. I like putting the B button here as kind of a sprint or run while looking around. This is actually going to wind up being a mode shift later on, so we're gonna take that out for now. Now, a lot of people, well, you know what, I could solve this real quick by doing a little bit more of an advanced profile, by getting rid of this completely. It's part of troubleshooting sometimes, I guess. I'm gonna go ahead and put this as joystick move. No outer ring binding. Yes, inverted. Click action, left stick click. We can still do pads only without the D-pad being. It's just going to be a little bit different, and I'll show you that in a minute. But you can see now the right grip causes me to run around. That's what I want. And from there, we need to put the D-pad somewhere. So this is where things get a little bit interesting with one of the new features. We're going to go into the mode shifting, and on these we're going to actually add a second activator. So we're going to go to activators, but first off we're going to, that's good, that's interruptible. So we're going to add an activator. We're going to come down here and we're going to turn it into chorded press. And what this does is when the chord button is active prior to activating this binding, it actually changes what the binding is going to be. It's kind of like a mode shift within a mode shift. So this is the A button, so the binding should be D-pad down, I believe. D-pad down, not interruptible, while the A button is. Chorded button, left. So press A button, press D-pad down. And we're going to do that with all of them. So B button, and go to activators, make sure that's interruptible. Then add a chorded press, make sure it's not interruptible. Binding is going to be D-pad right. And of course the chorded button, left grip. Just so you know, I was planning on doing those chords that way anyway. But that kind of spurred me to, since I can't. And what this will do is it'll let you access the D-pad while moving around. That way they're still kind of separated from each other. And of course the joystick now does nothing. There are a few more chords that I want to do though. And that's to get easy kicks instead of having to tap up and do it quickly. What we can do, go into the controller configuration, and on the bumpers, they can't be mode shifted, but we can also do the chorded activators. Chorded press. What we're going to do is actually the regular press. I'm actually going to test this out and see interruptible off on both of them. Let me see if it'll send both at once. Binding, left stick up, chorded button, left grip. Now, there we go. It should be just easy kicks now. And what we're going to do is for ambidexterity, we're going to go ahead and do that to all of them. So these will not be interruptible. Add activator, chorded press, binding, stick up, chorded button, left grip, interruptible, off. Full pull action is left trigger. We're actually going to debind that and turn trigger analog off. That way we can use the soft pull action for the triggers. That way they respond just a little bit quicker. That way I don't have to get down to the full pull. Trigger, and then of course 2, 5. That way it responds just a little bit quicker. And then of course on the soft pull points we are going to go back into activators, make it not interruptible, chorded press, bind, left stick up, chorded button, left grip. And then we're going to do the same on this side. Analog off, remove full pull, go down to soft pull, right trigger, go to 5, back up to soft pull, go to activators, add activator, chorded press, left stick up, chorded button, left grip, then make sure both of these are set off the interruptible. And that's all of the slam attacks, essentially. So that's basically the profile that I'm going to be using for my Dark Souls playthroughs. Of course, the D-pad's going to be here as well, but what this is going to say, we're actually going to give a hint as to where the D-pad is by using empty bindings. So hold left grip, and click edges, of right pad, for D-pad access. And then those are going to be empty, of course. And then for the ABXY, of course, we're going to go button pad, but we're going to empty these out. And then this is going to say click edges of right pad for ABXY buttons. Because pads only. So that kind of tells you what to do for that. And then this is going to say here, hold for buttons and slams. And then that's basically the configuration. Using the names of the bindings just kind of give a hint of what's going on. We can do that for here as well. Binding regular with no grip. Actually, no. Slam with grip. Do we want to do that? No, I think that'll be fine. Actually, don't want to clutter up with titles too much. Add. Okay, click action there. That's correct. ABXY buttons. Actually, center for RS. Click. There we go. There we go. That looks very good. Hold lift grip, edges, right pad. So now we can go into game. We have the cursor. Got our attacks. Got specials. We got the strong. Of course, we got the kick. We got the jump. Got, well, I don't have a weapon there, so those don't do anything. A, B, X, Y, down, right, up, left, and right stick click. And of course, left stick click is one final thing we can do that some people will do. This is kind of optional, but we go to the gyro, do mouse joystick as well. Right pad touch, haptics and sensitive low, additional settings. Lift this up quite a lot if I recall correctly. That allows you to look around using the gyro instead. Though I'm with the VSC view, I'm not showing the gyro controls at the moment, so you're not going to see it interact, but of course you can tell that I'm clearly, based on the movement on the right pad, I'm not controlling the camera with the right pad, but I'm controlling it with the gyro. So that's an option as well. For this game, I typically don't like using the gyro control, though, definitely for first-person shooters, but I don't think it's needed for Dark Souls per se. It is useful for bow aiming, though, so I might use that. One other thing, because I am who I am, invert vertical axis. I typically play inverted. That's just me. There you have it. That's a Dark Souls configuration in a video. Kind of a long video, about 30 minutes. But that kind of goes over the thought process. And of course we saw we had a little bit of issues that we had to troubleshoot, so that was good. Let's see. Here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this and load up Dark Souls 2. And of course this is Dark Souls 2. I just wanted to show that I had it working earlier with the D-pad and having that do the outer ring binding inverted to apply the joystick move layer, and then of course that removes it. So you can see I've got access to my D-pad, and then when I touch the center, I've got access to. So I don't know why it wasn't working in Dark Souls 1 when it works in here. There is a little bit of a glitch occasionally, though, for whatever reason. It might be a bug because I'm on the Steam client beta, but even though I'll touch the extreme edge occasionally, the outer ring binding will trigger anyway. Do a joystick move. Hopefully that gets fixed. But who knows? We'll see. So, of course, I've actually got my gyro held on the A button. This one. So. Anyway, again, thanks for watching.